Welcome back. Join us to uncover the mysterious stories in the lives of Huwain and Maya. Huwain, a mother who sacrifices tirelessly to bring joy to her daughter, feels that seeing Maya happy at school is the greatest joy she has ever planted. But everything changes when she faces a call from her ex-husband, a truth she never imagined. Will this be just a shock, or a turning point that reveals something significant that had been overlooked all this time? Where will their lives lead? Will he be able to adapt to change to maintain his family's happiness? Follow Story Off Direct, and don't miss the excitement and engagement on the channel so you don't miss a moment of the tension. Today's school farewell is different, filled with the laughter and voices of students, alongside the hurried steps of parents coming to pick up their children after the opening ceremony. The cars are lined up along the sidewalk. Parents walk hand in hand with their children, creating a warm and joyful scene. Upon arriving at the classroom, Maya stepped out the door with a bright look, but when she saw her classmates running to embrace their parents, an indescribable sadness overwhelmed her. Maya stood in a corner, watching the families joyfully reuniting, her eyes clouded with a veil of sorrow. Huwain, wearing warm but soft clothes, approached her daughter. But when Maya saw her, she couldn't hold back her feelings. She looked at Huwain with eyes full of hope and asked in a sad voice, "Bago came to take me. He doesn't love me anymore." Maya's question pierced Huwain's heart like a delicate stab. She stood still, unsure how to respond. Maya had grown up. She was now beginning to understand what was happening around her. The little girl didn't just love E. She also longed for a complete family, like the ones her friends had, where there was always a father by their side. Huwain embraced Maya, smiling gently. At home, E was preparing their favorite meal. Her words were kind but carried deep emotions. Maya looked at her for a moment, her eyes sparkling as if she had understood something. E, despite not being there with them at that moment, had a love for her that never changed. And though he wasn't her biological father, he made every effort to be the father Maya needed. Maya stood silently, watching the happy children with their parents. Mixed feelings invaded her heart. She had longed for a real family, a complete home, not just with a mother but also a father, like she saw with her friends. But Maya looked at E and gave a faint smile, a smile that seemed to accept that her family could be happy too, even if it wasn't the ideal family she had dreamed of. Huwain noticed Maya's maturity, as she began to accept E as an essential part of her life. And with everything he did and continued to do, he was winning the little girl's heart. Though not her biological father, Yi's love and sacrifices had truly touched Maya's heart. As he drove Maya to the car, the girl cast a final glance at the school and whispered, "Maya will always have a family that loves her, even if it's not the perfect family, but it's enough to make her happy." Those words echoed in Huwain's heart, leaving her unable to stop thinking about the future. Would they continue to face challenges together, or would more experiences come to test the love they were building? In that moment, Huwain felt something important. Even if they faced many difficulties, this family would endure because their love for each other was unshakable. Under the quiet ceiling, only the sound of the clock echoed in the room. Jay sat silently, lost in thought, staring out the window. The last rays of daylight faded, carrying a sense of calm. She thought of the happy times with E, those warm and challenging days they struggled through to build a home for them and Maya. Everything seemed to be going well, and she began to believe in a new life, a life without shadows from the past. But suddenly, an unexpected sound broke that silence, the ringing of the phone. Jay looked at the screen and saw her ex-husband's name. Instantly, a strange feeling overwhelmed her. Her eyes no longer reflected calm but a spark of anger, as if all the pain and disappointment she had suppressed for so long resurfaced. She thought he had forgotten the past and started building a future with E, but now her ex-husband had returned after ruining everything. Every time she saw his name, Jay spent sleepless nights due to endless arguments and wrong decisions she didn't want to remember. But now, She was no longer the same person from the past. She had left behind painful memories and abandoned false hopes to start a new life, a life worth living. Yet, here she was again, as if trying to pull her into an abyss she had actually escaped. Jay didn't need to think much. She pressed the button to answer. Her ex-husband's voice was soft, as if trying to calm the ghosts of the past. "We need to see each other," he said. Those words were like a knife in her heart. She thought she wouldn't have to face those words again, but here they were, like a sudden blow. Taking a deep breath, trying to stay calm, she felt the anger and disappointment were overwhelming. Her voice trembled with the softness of her tone. But inside, there was one thing only: resentment and bitterness that would never be erased. For a moment, she hesitated, wondering if she should listen more, if she should give him a chance to explain. But then she decided not to let her emotions control her mind. In a cold tone, she replied, "Don't waste my time anymore. There's nothing left between us." On the other end of the phone, her ex-husband fell silent, perhaps trying to find the right words to convince her, but she no longer had the strength to listen. He was exhausted from empty promises and vows that only led to pain. He had made his decision. There was no turning back. He couldn't continue living with the mistakes of the past. The call ended without any farewell or apology. Jay placed the phone on the table, overcome with a sense of emptiness. A strange question arose within her. Was this the right decision? Would her new life be destroyed by people from her past? But she told herself afterward that she couldn't let the past drag her down again. She had chosen she had chosen this family, and she would protect them. Her ex-husband's words were nothing more than a whisper in the wind, not enough to stir her heart. Jay sighed and headed to the kitchen, where E was waiting for her. He knew that no matter how many calls came from the past, he would never return. Her new life had begun now, and she wouldn't let anyone destroy it. Jay worked diligently to put the final pieces together. She was fixing the house, hammering with force, placing every board in its place, creating a solid space, just as she hoped her life with Huwain and Maya would be, a life that would endure without being shaken by any storm. The bedroom door, the wooden furniture, the house walls, everything was carefully tended to, without neglecting even the smallest details. The house was on the verge of completion, but for her, it wasn't just about building a house. It was about building a home, a place where everything good could grow. She set her hammer aside and wiped the sweat from her forehead. She sighed, feeling the exhaustion of a long day's work, but her mind was still filled with thoughts of Maya and her family. She looked toward the door, and suddenly, the sound of small footsteps pulled her from her thoughts. Maya ran toward her, her eyes sparkling and her innocent smile shining. "Welcome back," Maya said in her clear, tender voice. Jay couldn't help but smile. It felt like all the exhaustion of her day vanished when she saw her. She extended her hand and hugged her. "Were you good at school today? You didn't cry, did you?" she asked quietly, her voice warm and full of concern. Maya looked at her for a moment, then kissed her forehead as a silent gesture of gratitude. The little girl, with her innocence, began to talk, her eyes filled with joy. Maya was extremely happy, but he didn't come to pick her up. Maya's words caused Jay's heart to ache. She looked at the little girl, her eyes filling with indescribable tears of emotion. Tenderness for the unspoken words overwhelmed her heart. She couldn't go to pick up Maya as promised, despite wishing with all her heart to be by her side every second of her life. Jay stood silently, looking at Maya, then turned her gaze to E, who stood behind her, his eyes fixed on her, filled with understanding. In that moment, Jay felt the immense love she felt for Maya, but also the guilt for her inability to fulfill her responsibility as a father. She would do everything to make up for it, but would that be enough? Would she be able to fill the void that Maya had carried in her heart for so long? Huwain approached, took Jay's hand, and nodded gently as if she understood what was going on in her mind. No words were needed. Just looking at her was enough. Jay understood that together, they were building something much stronger than just a house. They were building love and sacrifice. They had begun a new journey. Despite the challenges that still lingered, nothing could destroy what they were building. Maya looked at them and smiled happily, though a trace of sadness still filled her heart. The little girl had grown up now. She realized that families weren't always perfect, but when love prevailed, everything was all right. "We'll always be together, won't we?" Maya whispered in a soft but confident voice. Jay looked at her, her face softening. Then she bent down and hugged Maya. "Yes, we'll always be together, Maya," she replied quietly. In that moment, Jay realized that no matter how difficult the coming days were, she wouldn't let anything destroy this family. Love, patience, and determination were the strongest foundations to overcome everything. And Maya, even if she wasn't her biological daughter, would always be an inseparable part of her life. Here they were, the three of them, in the home they built together, not yet complete, but enough to feel the immense love that surrounded them. Even if he wasn't her biological father, he would always be the father Maya needed.